I made a reservation for a company dinner for 100 people, but the only one who showed up was this gorgeous office lady, a colleague from my department. Suspicious, I called my manager. He just started laughing smugly over the phone. "We're not coming." While I stood there stunned, the stunning office lady beside me said one simple line: "I'll tell my dad." An unexpected situation would turn the manager's face pale. "What?" "My name is James Johnson. I'm 35 and work at a major electrical company. Rather called Jamie by my colleagues here. I'm in a department called the sheet metal division. Right after joining the company, I was initially assigned to the sales department. But about 2 years ago, in spring, I got transferred to sheet metal due to a shortage of workforce there. Our company has a wide range of employees, from high school grads to college grads. But nobody plays any immature games of bragging about their education. Except for one person. "James, you still haven't finished this job. How slow can you be? This is why I can't stand these useless high school grads. Even the rookies are more useful than you, aren't they?" Will Smith. He's the manager of the sheet metal division. He's 3 years older than me, but his mental age feels like he's more than 20 years younger than me. Childish doesn't even begin to cover it. He's downright immature. Ever since I got assigned to sheet metal, his taunts have been a daily occurrence. Why does the manager seem to have it out for Jamie like that? He was already rough on new hires, but with Jamie, it's like he's latched on, overly persistent. After the manager threw his insults and left, my coworkers came over, showing concern. I let out a sigh, agreeing with them, already exhausted from the manager's relentless harassment. Why did it end up like this? There's a particular reason behind it all. "James, it's about this document. What did you say I should do with it again?" The question came from my direct junior, a male employee. He's not a bad guy, but he's hopelessly inefficient at work. He has a poor memory and a rather shy personality. He often asks questions in a somewhat nervous manner. And I once heard from him that he was bullied pretty badly during his school days. But here, there's no one childish enough to act that way. Everyone accepts his shortcomings, jokingly saying, "Hey, what are you doing?" while helping him out and treating him kindly. But Manager Will isn't one to tolerate it. "Did you mess up the document again? How many times does this happen? Are you even trying?" Once again, my junior made a careless mistake and is getting chewed out by Manager Will. My timid junior trembles every time Will yells at him, visibly frightened by the manager's intimidation. "Manager, you're going overboard." He's doing his best in his own way. It's only been a month since he started. Could you try to be a bit more patient with him? Unable to bear Manager Will's increasingly harsh tone, I stepped in between the two and spoke up while my junior was being scolded. I shielded my junior behind me, facing Manager Will head on as his expression grew harsher by the second. "What's this, James? Are you seriously trying to stand up to me for a pair of useless deadweights? You sure have a lot of nerve to talk back." Will sneered. I couldn't help but frown at his loud voice, scrunching my brow in irritation. "You don't have to shout. I can hear you just fine. Can you stop with the intimidation and lecturing already, or should I report you for harassment? I'm not exactly known for my patience either. If anything, I'm hot-blooded and pretty short-tempered. Back in my school days, I spent a lot of time getting into fights. But as an adult, I've learned to keep that side of me in check. allowing me to function well in a workplace like this. However, when provoked like this, it's a different story. To me, Manager Will's yelling is about as bothersome as a crying baby. Though, unlike a baby, there's nothing cute about it, it's just plain annoying. It's hard not to get irritated with the way he talks. I laid out some words that would make any supervisor think twice, and Manager Will's face turned beet red. He was furious and wanted to snap back, but he knew if I said I'd report him, and I'd actually do it. That must have crossed his mind because he just spat out some words and stomped off to his station. I helped my junior, who looked like he was about to cry, and we headed back to our work area as ordered. Afterward, my junior started blaming himself, thinking he got me into trouble for his mistake. "I'm really sorry, James. You got yelled at because of me. It's not like I'm not trying. I'm doing my best to learn the job. But ever since I got scolded by the manager at my part-time job in my school days, working has scared me to death." Tears streaming down, he clutched his notebook tightly. When I gestured for him to show it to me, I was stunned by the sheer amount of notes he had written inside. He must have been going over his work at home, studying these notes diligently, meticulously detailing what actions to take and when, with each supposedly rewritten and reread. This notebook showed me his dedication. "I see now. You've been wrestling with a lot about this job. Sorry for not noticing your struggle sooner. Why are you apologizing? I'm the one causing all the trouble. Please don't apologize for me. You're a good guy. Let's work together to make things better, step by step. I'll ask others to help too, so we can create a comfortable environment for you." I gave him a rough pat on the head, and he grinned, replying cheerfully, "Yes." With that, our so-called useless duo talked to others around us about ways to support him, ensuring he could work comfortably and confidently. If he got nervous on site, someone would start a conversation with him to ease the tension or include him in our group chats. As for his ongoing struggle with document preparation, we picked up his notes and stuck small reminders on his monitor, detailing the steps so he could double-check everything. Until he was fully comfortable, someone from the higher UPAS would supervise him and offer kind advice as needed. Everyone worked to turn his weaknesses into strengths. Thanks to these efforts, within a month, he became more social and was even able to joke with the seniors. His careless mistakes at work also drastically decreased. It was a time when we all felt proud watching his growth. "What the hell are you doing?" A voice so loud it shook the entire sheet metal division reached our ears. "How are you going to fix this mess? This part needs to be sent to another department by tomorrow. How did this happen? Can you take responsibility for it?" When a few of my coworkers and I headed toward the shouting, we saw Will Smith yelling at my junior. Looking around, we saw the parts and tools he'd been working with scattered on the floor, with Will fuming as he stared at them. The sheet metal part was poorly made. Fixing it would likely require overtime. But I found it hard to believe my junior worked on this alone. I knew he'd been told to work on tasks like this only with our help, so it was unlikely he'd tackled it solo. I asked my team to start preparing for repairs and stepped in front of Will, shielding my junior behind me. "Please stop. Yelling at him like that isn't helping." "It's you again, James. One of the useless duo is behind this mess. How are you going to take responsibility for it?" Will was visibly furious. My junior, possibly reminded of past trauma, hugged his arms tightly, trembling and crying. Did he really do this alone? What? He told us he struggles with this task. We all agreed in the sheet metal division that he'd only do it alone after practicing with one of us until he felt comfortable. I had brought this up in a team meeting, and Manager Will was there. He'd never attempt something he's not confident in by himself. It was my junior's own suggestion, and I couldn't believe he'd go against it. As I explained this, Manager Will's face twisted in rage, turning his anger toward me. "Are you saying I forced him to do it?" "I'm just saying he wouldn't have volunteered to handle a solo task he's not comfortable with." Though I hadn't directly accused him, Manager Will's reaction gave him away. It was clear he had likely pressured my junior, using him to get a reaction out of me. Ever since I defended my junior, Manager Will's harassment toward me had only intensified. It seemed he'd now dragged my junior into it, frustrated by my lack of response to his other provocations. I felt a deep irritation toward Will for stooping to such underhanded tactics. "Anyway, he messed up, so you're both responsible. Fix this and get it over to the other division by the end of today. It's your fault for failing to supervise him properly." Leaving us with the poorly made part, Manager Will walked off. The moment he was out of sight, my junior slumped to the ground, apologizing to me through his tears. "James, I'm so sorry. This is all my fault. I told the manager right from the start that I couldn't do it alone, but he just yelled at me to quit whining and get on with it. I was too scared to stand up to him. With him watching over my shoulder, I got more and more confused until I didn't know what I was doing. I'm so sorry you had to go through this because of me." He kept apologizing, explaining what happened. Even though he'd mustered up the courage to admit his limits, Manager Will had forced him into it without a second thought. Hearing this story stirred up anger within me. Feeling my frustration boil over, I decided to confront Will once more. "James, please don't." He must have sensed my intention, grabbing my arm and pleading through his tears to stop me. "Let go. You were brave enough to speak up. How can I just stand by after seeing you treated like that? I'd hate it more if you got in trouble because of me." Desperately, my junior tried to hold me back, but I was determined, trying to shake off his grip. At that moment, just as I was about to free his hand from my arm, someone approached and gently tapped me on the shoulder. "What now?" I barked out, still irritated, but when I turned around, I was surprised to see who was standing there. I froze, caught off guard by their unexpected appearance. My junior, noticing my reaction, let go of my arm and peeked around to see who it was. "I've gathered some others, so let's all tackle this task together. Other work might be delayed, but we can always ask another department for backup. For now, let's just keep calm and carry on what needs to be done." Standing there was none other than Mary Anderson, known as the most beautiful woman in the sheet metal division. Mary, who joined the company the same year as me, handles the division's administrative work. Since the yelling took place near her office, she'd overheard the situation and gathered reinforcements for us. Her practical words helped me regain my composure, and I managed to push down my rising anger. Under the supervisor's guidance, we all worked together to cover my junior's mistake, managing to finish by the end of the shift. Thanks to Mary's assistance in calling for backup, we even completed the other tasks without needing to stay late. "Sorry about all this. I know I put a lot on you too, Mary." On the way home, we happened to be heading in the same direction and decided to walk part of the way together. On the way, I apologized to her about today's events, and she gave me a slightly troubled smile. Wouldn't thank you be more appropriate? Mary's mischievous smile made my heart skip a beat. There's no need to thank me. I did it because I wanted to. Don't worry about it. Her gentle smile and narrowed eyes made my heart race even more. I haven't spent much time around women in my life. Back in school, I was a troublemaker, always on the teacher's radar, and spent more time with the guys than with any girls. In high school, I learned to play cards and would stay up all night playing with friends or hanging around at the arcade. Getting into this company was thanks to barely passing grades. With such a rebellious youth, I have almost zero experience interacting with women. Just standing next to someone as beautiful as Mary made my heart feel like it was going to leap out of my chest. I tried to act calm so she wouldn't notice, but honestly, I was so nervous I don't even remember what I talked about afterward. But I do remember that she gave me her contact info just in case I needed anything. And that night, I nervously sent my very first email to a woman before going to sleep. The next day, I woke up to the loud sound of my alarm and headed to the office, same as usual. Then, I ran into Mary, who looked distressed, in front of the office. "Good morning, what's wrong? You look troubled." When she saw me, her face lit up with relief, but then immediately turned anxious. "It's bad. I just got a message from him saying he wants to take a break from work for a while. He says he doesn't have the courage to come to the office. It seems yesterday's incident made him afraid of causing trouble for everyone. And now he's having panic attacks just trying to leave his house." Mary was clearly worried and didn't know what to do. He went to the hospital and was apparently diagnosed with depression. Looks like he won't be able to come to work for a while. After hearing her out, I clenched my fists so tightly that my nails nearly dug into my palms, my face tensing with anger. "I'll go check on him after work. You don't need to worry about it." "I'm sorry, I can't be of more help in a time like this." "What are you talking about? You're probably the one who encouraged him over the phone, right? You've done more than enough. The reason he can't come to work is Manager Will, not you. Don't blame yourself." Without thinking, I reached out and gently patted her head, as if comforting a child. Realizing what I'd done, I quickly pulled my hand away, but both of our faces turned bright red. To cover my confusion and awkwardness, I returned to my station and focused on today's tasks. But what we didn't realize at the time was that someone had seen the whole exchange and wasn't happy about it. "Jamie, good work today. Want to grab a drink?" It was when I'd finished up my work and was getting ready to leave. A coworker invited me out, but I turned them down, explaining that I was heading to check on my junior. I finished getting ready faster than anyone else and was about to head to his place. "Hey, James, we're holding a company appreciation event this Sunday. Find a place that can handle food for 100 people. Out of nowhere, Manager Will appeared in the hallway, giving me an order that made no sense. I instinctively replied with an incredulous "excuse me," and his expression immediately darkened. "What's the problem? Why are you asking me? Shouldn't this be handled by accounting or admin? Or at least by someone who's managed events before? In our department, gatherings like these are usually arranged by people in accounting or admin because it's easier for them to manage. But for some reason, he was dumping it on me this time. Who wouldn't wonder why, out of the blue, I'm suddenly asked to handle this? You realize how many people your useless junior inconvenienced the other day, right? Everyone's been busy covering for him." And today, he's off with some pathetic excuse about being unwell. It's your duty as a senior to cover for that failure. We're all carrying extra weight because of you, too. You should be apologizing for that much. Manager Wool spoke as if this was all my fault. Hearing him, I had to restrain myself from lashing out. It was clear he was trying to provoke me, setting a trap to get me into trouble. He couldn't stand that I pushed back and was looking for any excuse to punish me. I could see right through his plan. If I fell for it, I wouldn't be able to help my struggling junior. Suppressing my emotions, I forced a smile and decided to go along with Will's demand. Understood. A place for 100 people, right? I'll handle it. With that, I headed off to my junior's house, unaware of Will's smug grin behind me. Before the scheduled company gathering on Sunday, I visited my junior's house multiple times. Each time, his mother greeted me at the door, explaining that he was in no condition to see anyone due to his mental state. Thanks to Mary's help, my junior's absences were covered by paid leave. But once that ran out, he'd start being marked absent. If it comes to that, knowing what kind of person the manager is, he might try to push my junior out of the company. I was determined to prevent that at all costs. With these thoughts, the day of the gathering arrived. I waited at the hotel I'd booked until the person from admin, responsible for organizing, arrived, and then Mary showed up. Oh, am I the only one here? Ever since the situation with my junior, Mary and I had been in contact every day. Knowing I'd arranged this gathering, she'd come to the hotel as planned. But something fell off. Is it normal for no one to show up at all? Even though it was 10 minutes before the start time, not a single person had arrived. There hadn't even been any messages. I'll call the manager, I said, growing suspicious. I decided to call Manager Will to find out what was going on. As soon as the call started ringing, he picked up almost instantly, as if he'd been waiting for it. Manager, the gathering is today, right? No one's shown up. Suspicious of how quickly he picked up, I asked, my gut telling me something was wrong. In response, Will burst into laughter, speaking in a mocking tone. We're not coming. I never asked you to set that up. I'm with the rest of the team at another party. You must have made the reservation by mistake, loser. Stunned by this absurd situation, I was left speechless, almost dropping my phone in shock. Mary, noticing my reaction, took the phone from me, switching to speaker to listen in on the conversation. Honestly, you annoy me. Acting like some hero. Getting all chummy with Mary too, I had my eye on her. It's pathetic that a nobody high school broad like you even thinks he can be friends with her. Mary's expression changed as she listened, her smile now dangerously calm. She brought the phone to her mouth, her voice gentle but laced with anger. Good evening, Manager Will. I heard everything you said. The moment Will recognized her voice. I heard the sound of a glass shattering in the background. Mary, I'll be telling my father about this incident. I can't turn a blind eye this time. Expect to hear from him in the next couple of days. You'd better be prepared. What? With that single statement, Mary ignored Will's attempt to respond and abruptly ended the call. She then turned off my phone, flashed me a bright smile, and looked at me. So, how many people is the reservation for? I booked it for 100 people. 100. Got it. Don't worry about the bill. I'll talk to the folks in accounting and make sure it's covered as a business expense. She took out her own phone and began making calls to various contacts. I was too stunned to interrupt and could only watch as she worked, totally at a loss for words. All set, I managed to gather 100 people, so let's enjoy the party. Some folks from the sheet metal division will be here too. And there's a special guest joining us, she added with a mischievous grin. Still bewildered, I couldn't follow the flow of events, and finally asked her what was going on. What do you mean you gathered them? What's really happening here? As for Manager Will, I'm sure you'll get called in soon enough, and I'll explain then. For the party, I called people from various departments, sales, admin, so we'll easily hit 100 attendees. Admin will be here too, so they'll get the whole story, Mary said with a playful smile. Watching her confidently lay the groundwork to bring Will down, I felt a chill but also relief, grateful she was on my side. As Mary predicted, 100 attendees eventually arrived, and this unprecedented multi-department appreciation party began. To my surprise, an unexpected guest joined us. I immediately rushed over, my face lighting up with joy. Hey! Standing there was none other than my junior, who hadn't been able to come due to his depression. Are you okay? Sorry for making you worry. Mary invited me, saying you were concerned too, and that Will wouldn't be here, so I thought I'd stop by. It must have taken all his courage to come. Despite knowing Will wasn't around, my junior still trembled as he spoke to me. I could feel his bravery, and without thinking, I tousled his hair affectionately. And so, we enjoyed an unexpected yet delightful appreciation party. The very next day, the company took swift action regarding Will. Will, I've heard everything. I was called to the CEO's office along with Manager Will. Mary was there too, and she gave me a reassuring glance. I've heard about the harassment toward James, his junior, and other employees. And it seems you were quite persistent with my daughter as well. Daughter. Hearing this, I couldn't help but express my surprise. The CEO nodded and provided an explanation. Mary Anderson is my daughter. She insisted on keeping it private, which is why neither you nor Manager Will knew. Only the little puppy was informed. When I looked over at Mary, she gave me a playful smile, pressing her hands together in a silent apology. I'd been outplayed, caught in the perfect trap. Turning to Manager Will, I saw he was beginning to grasp the severity of the situation. His face went pale, and he started trembling. Now, as for your punishment, Manager Will, it's impossible to overlook this. You'll be dismissed. The department head has already given you multiple warnings about harassment, so dismissal is inevitable. Please, no, CEO, wait. I'll change my ways. I promise I'll never mistreat anyone again. Please, don't fire me. If you're capable of apologizing now, why couldn't you show that kind of consideration when he was struggling? Manager Will was desperately pleading with the CEO, sobbing and begging to avoid being fired. As he kept repeating his apologies, both the CEO and Mary looked on in exasperation. His selfishness, caring only for himself, was infuriating, and I couldn't keep the anger out of my voice as I spoke to him. When he was clearly uncomfortable, you still forced him to go through with it, didn't you? And now you're trying to be the only one forgiven. That was outright bullying. He was finally starting to enjoy work, and you took that from him. Don't even try to escape your guilt. As I shouted, Will let out a small, fearful gasp, recoiling in shock. With that, his dismissal was finalized. Rumor has it he now spends his days at the job center, struggling to find employment given his age. After all this, my junior returned to work and settled in well. The new manager was kind and dedicated, working hard to help him grow, which made his workdays enjoyable again. With Wool gone, Mary and I celebrated by going out for drinks. She apologized for not telling me she was the CEO's daughter, but since I kept my past to myself, we called it even. Over beers, we laughed it off together. Since this incident, I've grown close to her, and we often go out for drinks. Little by little, I started noticing her passion for her work. Drawn to her kindness and thoughtfulness toward others, I confessed my feelings to her. To my delight, we started dating, and next spring, we're set to get married. With a promotion at work lined up, I'm determined to keep growing and moving forward.